How do you go ahead and teach that same mentality to your child or children when they don't have the same suffering that you did?
That's a good question. Well, I just tell them that that they can see all the things and all the blessings I've received and what's come with winning. And I explain to them all the time, like, yo, people want to hang out with people that win.
Yes.
If you're just gonna be mediocre at shit, no one cares about that. That's easy. And not that people are friends with me because I can win stuff. I think it's, you get the introduction, however you get the introduction, but then how you behave and how you conduct yourself translates into everything. It translates into it carries over into the relationships, and I treat my friends the same way I treat my physical endeavors. It's serious to me. I'm you know what I mean? The people that are important to me, and so for the children, I mean, they would probably laugh if they hear this. They'd be like, "Oh Jesus, don't get them going." I have lessons for them every day, every single day. I'm like, get in there, especially with jiu-jitsu, because we go every single day. So I talk to my youngest son when we're on the way, and I'm like, just get in there and empty the tank, man. When you're done, everything that you learned and did in that practice will be yours to keep forever. But if you go in there and have a shitty attitude and you don't give your best, you're going to have that forever too. And that feeling stinks. It lasts forever. Quitting and giving up never goes away. And you can never forget that you gave up on yourself, because I've done that. And that was one of the biggest turning points in my life, was quitting at the Ironman the first time that I qualified for the race in Hawaii. And that sting of quitting, even thinking about it now makes me want to cry. I never want to, I would rather die than feel like that again. I will never quit. Not by my own, not by left to my own devices. An injury, okay, you're going to get injuries. I crashed my bike once in Iceland at an Iceland half Ironman, and I was close to winning, and I crashed, and I was just fucking hobbling the whole day, covered in blood, and eventually I was like, I can't go on. I'm too hurt, and I can live with that, because I know I was hurt. I would have kept going, but so I tried to give them examples of things that I've done wrong and how they can avoid feeling certain feelings.
What advice do you have for people who are thinking about quitting or in that position of quitting? Let's call it a race.
Quitters never win and winners never quit. It's like the family mantra.
I love that.
I go, guess what quitters never do? Win. The kids are like, Dad, we know. I go, well, I just got to remind you, always be at the top of mind. Winners never quit and quitters never get to win. I also tell them, and this I think is a good lesson for everyone, whether it's running, jiu-jitsu, any physical endeavor, or academic, piano lessons, anything that you're doing is if you're not willing to be the worst when you start, you never get to be the best. I tell my son, the jiu-jitsu guy, I'm like, imagine, because he's just started wrestling too, and when we were going to wrestling, I'm like, you're going to be the worst, because those kids have experience, they know. But I said, imagine if a kid showed up with no experience in jiu-jitsu and he just got to ragdoll you, and he's pretty advanced for 8 years old. I mean, he's on his third belt, and they don't just give out belts like
candy.
Yeah, you have to earn them. And I'm like, imagine if someone just came in and threw you around with no experience. You'd feel like, what the F? This has been a giant waste of time. The whole premise of this is that with experience, you get to the point where you can do anything to anyone and they can't do anything to you. And so they absorb that and listen. But that's what I tell them with everything. My daughter just started playing lacrosse, and she's not the most athletic person in the world. And I'm like, listen, everyone, when Mike Tyson started boxing at one point, he was the worst in the gym. The difference between the guy who gets to be the champion and the people who are the worst is the guy who's the champion just never stopped. He just never quit. He never gave up. He never was like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And the same thing goes for running, podcasting. Of course, if you listen back to your first few podcasts, I'm sure you'd be like, oh my God, I was disgraceful. I was horrible. But would you say you're on 400th episode? 400 episodes, it's like anything. Reps. More reps, the better you're going to be. And the only difference between the people that are the top and the people that stink are the people that at the top just never stopped learning and getting better.
Yes, absolutely. And on your advice for your children to continue that, one thing you said is you don't have to be good. all that we ask for is effort.
That's it.
You don't have to do sports, but you have to do something. And you have to have some passion. And we'll keep trying things until you find something you're passionate about. Just going through life and not having interests is not cool.
Not acceptable.
And if you think about it, that is so true. And it's like, I wasted so much damn time just not being interested in anything, not giving effort because I just thought it was cool to not care. And I thought I should just show up and be good at things. And it's like, I just had no idea. And I wish I can get that to people's minds and hearts is like, you play pickup basketball, go hard. Why are you playing the game if you don't expect to win? And I'm thinking about you last night when I'm playing basketball and I'm like, this dude isn't boxing out. He doesn't care. I'm like, get the hell off the court. Like, what are you doing? We're here to win.
Yeah.
So like, stop like just thinking that this is just pickup basketball. No, this is serious.
Yeah.
And so taking things seriously to me is one of the key lessons I've gotten from you.
Yeah, that's you summed it up perfectly. I said you got to be passionate about something. I don't understand or relate to people that don't have interests. When I was running a trading desk in London, and I'd interview. I mean, at one point I hired like 20 people in a few months, and when I was interviewing people, I'd be like, "Yo, what kind of things are you into?" I don't care about traditional interview questions. I want to know like what that person's like, and I'm like, "What are you into?" And they're like, "I don't really know." I'm like, you must have some interest. Like, do you like skiing? Fucking playing cards? I don't know. I'm like, brother, if you don't have any interest, I don't know what else to talk to you about. Like, this work is just a small part of life. Like, we're going to spend 8 hours a day together. We're going to spend more time than anyone else in your life together. I need to know that you have some interest, that something excites you. I don't give a fuck if it's Dungeons and Dragons. Be into something. Be good at something. Take pride and take ownership in something in your life outside of your career. And listen, even with career, I have respect for people that are like, all I care about is being successful in this business and building this business. That's cool. I'm with that. If that's really what you want to do, it's evident. Because people that care deeply about anything, you can tell right away. You're like, oh, this is a master at this skill.
Yeah. And when you live in the world of not having interest, it's what it really is. It's not having respect for life. It's not having respect for the gift you've been giving with your consciousness.
Yeah.
And I really admire the way in which it seems like there have been periods of your life when you're just like, I don't know what to do. I'm doing drugs and all, like, and I'm down in the dumps. And then there are periods of your life where you're like, no, like you can actually make the most out of this thing. And it's easy for someone who was born with, they started playing hockey and they all of a sudden become the greatest hockey player in the world. They lived in that. But you've had periods where you didn't have the passion for life or the gratefulness for it. And you've had periods when you have had that same gratefulness. And so that to me is the remarkable thing. And that to me is so exciting because it means if somebody's listening to this right now and they don't have that passion for life, they don't have that gratefulness, you can get it.
Yeah. You got to just try different things and figure out what it is that you care about, what excites you. And to be clear, like when I got out of college, like for a long time, all I cared about was sports. Then I started working, making money, and kind of didn't have any passions. And when I didn't have any passions or motivations, that's when I fell into the drug use. But I always worked out hard, real hard. Like I boxed for a long time in New York. And so I was always like in decent shape. And then when I got sober, I just started in on the endurance sports, and that kind of became a distraction from the addiction and certainly from the withdrawals in the recovery process. Relied heavily upon having that outlet. It was a way for me to like be busy for a couple hours a day at a minimum, and it gave me like I just responded to the physical exertion and the physical pain that came with exercising, luckily for me. But I can see how people would be like, oh, that's too much, it sucks, it's uncomfortable. 100% it is. But the alternative to me was emotional discomfort, and the stars just aligned that I found something that resonated with me, and I had a little bit of acumen for it. You know, when people are like, oh, you're lucky, you're a good runner. I'm like, I sucked at running when I started. That's crazy. You don't make that assumption. Like, I'm not a naturally gifted athlete. I'm not naturally good at anything. I've just worked super hard. I mean, I've done this for so many years of running a minimum of 10 miles a day. you know, but yeah, to your point, without that distraction and without that interest, I'm lost at sea. Too much time on my hand, like idle mind is the devil's workshop. That's never more appropriate for anyone than for me.